Welcome to a new video in international trade. We are in the second module of the paper international trade. Second module is recent developments in the demand trade theory. Today we have law of reciprocal demand offer curve analysis. The principle of reciprocal demand, or the theory of reciprocal demand, or the principle of reciprocal demand was put forward by J.S. Mill in 1848. It was out through the work of J.S. Mill, the well-known work of J.S. Mill, Principles of Political Economy, published in 1848. The reciprocal demand is in fact the mutual demand for goods and services by the nations. So this mutual international demand for goods or services can be shown through offer curves. Offer curve is a technique to show the mutual demand for goods and services between nations. It was devised by Edgeworth and Alfred Marshall. So reciprocal demand is in fact international demand. International demand for commodities between two nations. So this is international demand for imports and exports. So one commodities export is the opposite country's import, and the opposite country's export will be obviously the other country's export. So this is mutual demand. So it refers to the intensity of demand for the product of one country in the other country. So the Mill's principle of reciprocal demand states that the actual ratio of exchange of commodities is determined by the relative strength of the nations and elasticity of the commodities. So both strength of the nations, production capacity of the nation, and the demand elasticity, export elasticity, and the import elasticity of the commodities both will decide the actual rate of exchange of the two nations on two commodities. So this reciprocal demand technique was this principle was used by J.S. Mill. This principle was devised by J.S. Mill to explain the equilibrium terms of trade of both nations. According to him, both nations involved in mutual international trade will find the equilibrium terms of trade at the point of intersection of both offer curves. So we will explain this in the coming slides. Offer curve is the tool or technique to measure the reciprocal demand between two countries for the two commodities. So this is the international demand stating the conditions of equilibrium terms of trade. How or where or when does the equilibrium terms of trade or equilibrium rate of exchange ratio is obtained. According to the principle, it is obtained by the intersection of reciprocal demand. This is possible at the point of intersection of offer curves. Offer curve is the tool to explain the mutual international demand between two commodities. Equilibrium terms of trade is in fact the stable ratio of exchange. This is not exchange rate, this is exchange ratio of commodities. So at the stable exchange ratio or equilibrium terms of trade, both nations, one country's export is just enough to pay for the import of that country from the opposite country. So this is the same for the opposite country as well. So we know the terms of trade, TOT, and trade status of the nations. When terms of trade is 1 or 100%, the exports are just enough to meet the import. The 100% of import can be met through the export revenue. That is the terms of trade 1 or 100%. If terms of trade is less than 1 or less than 100%, then exports are not enough to meet the import done by the nation. When terms of trade is greater than 1 or 100%, the exports are more than enough to meet its import. This is the trade status. Terms in the first case, when terms of trade is equal to 1, that is a neutral status of trade in which the nation doesn't gain or doesn't lose. So that is a neutral status. So when terms of trade is less than 1, the exports are not enough to meet the import. This is a deteriorated stage of terms of trade of that nation. And when terms of trade is greater than 1, the exports are more than enough to meet the import. That nation is gaining more and more. And but remind you, when one nation is gaining something, other nation will lose something. So the equilibrium or desirable point is the equilibrium exchange ratio. It is possible where terms of trade is equal to 1 for both nations. So let's look at the background of the theory. This theory was in fact to supplement the Ricardian theory of comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is in fact the basis, the widely accepted basis of international trade. Still it is the basis of trade, but the only difference today is what determines that comparative advantage. According to classicals, it was the cost advantage, comparative advantage in terms of labor cost, but lot of things are affecting the comparative advantage. But the issue addressed by the theory of reciprocal demand was the complete neglect of demand side by the classical theory, and it focused on supply side, and it completely neglected the demand side. The Ricardian theory argued that countries with comparative advantage will export, so it explains only how does the nations engage in international trade, or why does the nation engage in international trade, and how do both nations gain from trade. So this is in fact the supply side of international trade. Ricardo did not mention the demand side. So this issue was addressed by J.S. Mill through his work on the reciprocal demand. He extended his deep knowledge on demand and supply in international values. It was supplemented by the Edgeworth's and Marshall's graphics of offer curves. So all assumptions of the reciprocal demand theory of J.S. Mill is in line with the classical trade theory. He assumed two country, two commodity model, and the production is governed by constant returns to scale, and there is no diminishing return, there is no increasing return as assumed by the classical theory. Trade is governed by comparative advantage. So this is reciprocal demand theory is in fact to supplement comparative advantage theory of Ricardo. This is not to neglect the comparative advantage theory. The pattern of demand will be similar in two nations. Both nations are alike in all matters. So both international markets are perfectly competitive, in which no external entity is here to interfere, and nobody is able to influence the price. Only cost of production will influence the price. Full employment of factors is another assumption. If there is any labor, any factor remaining unemployed, it will affect the comparative advantage, and this is another assumption. And and it is also assumed that there is no transport cost. Differences in transport cost will add something to the comparative advantage or disadvantage. If transport cost is higher, if it is surpassing the cost of production, then it will affect the comparative advantage. Then comparative advantage will differ when transport cost is assumed. So this is also required for validating the theory. So this is another assumption. Export receipts will be made enough. It will be enough to pay for import. So this is the exchange ratio. So equilibrium exchange ratio will be obtained in the final stage. At that point, the export receipts are just enough to meet the import when terms of trade is equal to 1. So let's explain the theory using an example. We have two countries, country A and country B. We have two commodities as well, commodity, textile commodity and rubber products. So rubber, so textile and rubber are the two products. A and B are the two countries. Here, as per the comparative advantage theory of David Ricardo, country A has got the comparative advantage in the production and export of textiles, and country B has got the comparative advantage in the production and export of rubber. So country A will specialize and export textile, country B will specialize and export rubber. So this is in fact the mutual international trade. Country A will export textiles to country B, country B will export rubber to country A. This is mutual international trade, and this is in fact explained by David Ricardo in supply side. So this the lack of demand side analysis was filled by J.S. Mill through his reciprocal demand theory, and he used the offer curve technique to explain the mutual demand for textiles and rubber. And he is also explaining the how does the nation reach the equilibrium exchange ratio, and where terms of trade for both nations are equal, are 1. Let's look at the schedule of trade propensity for country A. Country A is specializing in the production and export of textile commodity, and it is as it has got the comparative advantage in textile, it has got the comparative disadvantage in rubber. So rubber is the importable commodity in country A. Textiles is the exportable commodity in country A. So let's look at the figures given in the table. In the first column, where you can see textile commodities, that is the exportable commodity of country A. 25 units of textile commodities. In return, the nation receives 5 units of rubber. So this is at a particular point of price, at a particular price. So 25 is to 5, that means 25 is to 5 or 5 is to 1. That means this is terms of trade is well below 1, that as 5 by 25, that means 5 is to 1. And in this case, in this point of price, in this point of trade, country A is suffering, as its terms of trade is too below the desirable level. And the second row, you can see 40 units of textiles are exported by country A. In return, it receives 10 units of rubber. This is at a particular point of price. So 4 is to 1 is the exchange ratio. Exchange ratio is determined by importable commodities by exportable commodity. That means 10 by 40. This is 4 is to 1, that is 0.25. So here also the terms of trade is well below 1, that is 0.25. And in the next stage, the country A exports textile commodities in 60 quantities. At the same time, it receives 20 units of rubber at a particular level of price. Then here 20 by 60 is the exchange ratio, or 3 is to 1 is the exchange ratio. Here it is 20 by 60 is 0.33. This is also well below 1. Here also terms of trade of country A is too bad, it is deteriorated. The country B is gaining at the same time. And the next stage, country A exports 80 units of textile and receives 40 units of rubber in return as import. So 40 by 80 is the exchange ratio, that is 0.5, or 2 is to 1 is the terms of trade, or 0.5 is the terms of trade. That means this is also terms of trade is worsened or deteriorated, but as the time passes through, in the next stage or final stage, 100 units of textiles are produced and exported by country A. In return, they receive 100 units of rubber. So 100 by 100 is 1, or 1:1 is the exchange ratio. 1 is the exchange ratio, means terms of trade is 1. That means the country's exports are just enough to meet the import. That means the terms of trade is unaffected. This is the exchange ratio for both nations, country A and country B. So it can be explained graphically. In the diagram you can see both axes, horizontal axis. Along the horizontal axis, rubber is measured along, and in the vertical axis, textiles is measured. So here there are two countries, suppose India and Malaysia. India produces and export textile commodity. So textile commodity is the exportable commodity of India. Rubber is the exportable commodity of Malaysia. In our example, when textile is the exportable commodity of India, rubber is the importable commodity of India in the example. At the same time, when rubber is the exportable commodity of Malaysia, then textile is the importable commodity of Malaysia. So here you can see the diagram, the curve OA is the offer curve. OA is the offer curve of India. That is the curve which shows different levels of units of textiles that India is ready to offer to Malaysia, and in return they will receive something as import, that is the rubber. So OA refers to the export international supply curve of India, and it is in fact the international demand curve of Malaysia, and it shows different levels of points, point 1, point 2, 3, 4 and 5. So you can see at point 1 it's around 20 units of textiles are ready to offer by India, and but rubber receive in return India receives quite few units of rubber. So at point 2, 40 units of textile is ready to offer by India. At the same time, India receives less than 20 units of rubber. So in these both cases, India is losing, as its terms of trade is well below 1. And in the third case also, at point 3, where India is ready to offer 60 units of textile and 20 units of rubber, here also the terms of trade is 20 by 60, that is 0.33. So this is also well below 1 or 100% of terms of trade. So the next level, that is at 4, where India is ready to offer 80 units of textile, and in return India receives only 40 units of rubber from Malaysia. That means 40 by 80 is the exchange ratio. 40 by 80 is 0.5. 0.5 is well below 1. 1 is a desirable ratio for both nations, as exports are okay, exports are enough to meet the import. And look at the point 5, where 100 units of textiles are ready to be offered by India, and in return India will receive 100 units of rubber at a particular level of price. So this case, 100 by 100 is the exchange ratio. That means terms of trade is 1 or 100%. That means India's exports are exactly adequate or enough to meet the import, as terms of trade is 1. Here you can see, as the time passes from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and to 5, you can see terms of trade of India is improving from least point to the last best point, that means at point 1 ratio is too low, but it is steadily improving from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3, 3 to 4 and 4 to 5. At 5 both nations are not losing. The losses will be exhausted as terms of trade is equal to 1. So this is diminishing. This is happening as there is diminishing marginal utility. So more and more units are purchased, so utility is getting diminished. As marginal utility is diminishing, both nations are ready to offer more and more units of textiles and rubber. So the terms of trade will be gradually improving. Exchange ratio is gradually increasing, and it will increase up to the point 1 where both nations are enjoying terms of trade of 1, where both nations don't lose from international trade. Equilibrium exchange ratio is determined by the elasticity of demand elasticity for export and import. So when a country's export, when country A's demand for country B's product is less elastic, and B's demand for A's products is highly elastic, then country A will give more units of X to country B for a given units of import of Y. That means when demand elasticity is less, it is less than 1, then that country will give more units of its commodity to another country. And when demand elasticity is high, it is greater than 1, it is highly elastic. That means that nation will give less to the other nation. So when elasticity is less, our terms of trade will be worsened. When our import elasticity is less, the terms of trade will be deteriorated. When our export elasticity is high, our terms of trade will be better, as one country, as another country is ready to offer more for our export. That means if B's demand elasticity for A's commodity is less, or its elasticity is less than 1, then country B is ready to give more and more units of commodity Y to country A. So the offer curve or the offer of commodities by nations depends on the elasticity, demand elasticity of export and demand elasticity of import. If demand elasticity is less, that means if the elasticity is less than 1, that nation will give more, as it has to its demand will not come down, and it will give more and more units. If B's elasticity of demand for A's commodity is less, then country B will give more units to Y. So exchange ratio is affected by elasticity and relative strength of the nation to produce the commodity. So the reciprocal demand theory is an addition, or it is supplementary to the comparative advantage theory of David Ricardo, classical comparative advantage theory. So this is addressing the demand side of the mutual international demand between two nations. This was not addressed by David Ricardo in his comparative advantage, and this theory was in fact set up on the basis of the pillars, conditions and assumptions of the classical theory. This is in fact in line with the classical theory, and this is to supplement the classical theory of international trade.